Hey everyone, I'm Mojo Jodo, and today we're going to be looking at the latest PTR and asking what the hell's going on in Gilneas. Now, quick warning for everyone, this video will contain spoilers about the upcoming patch 10.2.5, which is seed to renewal, and just to be aware, because this is a public test realm, things can and do change, so don't take anything here as gospel. But I think I found something quite interesting, something a little player housery, whichever way you want to say it, something which might hint at the upcoming player housing that people have been wanting for a long time. But first, what I want to do is I just want to have a quick rundown of what's been added into patch 10.2.5 and give you a breakdown of what's going on there. So looking at this week's PTR, there's been a number of different things which have been added over the last few weeks since the PTR actually went live. We've now got access to a new night elf area which is called Madrasil. And there's a few cool things which you can actually find there in the PTR right now. So looking at the Madrasil, it looks like a large reworked area of the Emerald Dream that we had in patch 10.2. So if you've already played 10.2, you'll be quite familiar with the aesthetic, the area, things like that. However, the biggest change is the addition of what looks to be the new Night Elf City, which is great, right? And it's got a new name as well. So the new city is called Bel Ameth. I think I'm pronouncing that correct. So this place is packed with lots of new stuff. There's brand new NPCs, a load of new buildings, loads of really cool art assets. But there's a few which stick out to me which are quite interesting. So there's a load of new profession trainers there. You've got alchemy and herbing, inscription, tailoring. You've got the whole works basically, which hints that this is going to be maybe a new sort of starting zone for night elves, maybe other races, because we do know that Dragonfly is going to be the level in experience going forward. So where better to start people off than in the area of a Madrasil, where they've got access to all of these different profession trainers and things like that. Now, along with all of those NPCs, we also have 2 Tyrondas, which is really weird. More Tyrondas is good in my opinion, but yeah, there's 2 Tyrondas there, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just an error, these things will probably change. But she's also listed as unknown at the moment, so that's quite interesting. And not interesting in the way of she's going to get a name change or anything, just interesting, right? It's cool to see when you're looking at these PTRs, all the things which are temporary and in flux and can change. So another noteworthy area of this entire new city that it looks like for Night Elves is that we've got 4 different portals in and around the actual city itself, and then 1 on the outskirts near the harbour. And yes, there's a harbour, and I'll get to that in a few minutes' time. So looking at the 4 new portals which are in Bel Ameth, you will find that there is 1 to Stormwind, 1 to Darkshore, 1 to Mount Hyjal, and there's also 1 to Val'sharah in the Broken Isles. So this is really cool. It's going to give you a lot more mobility to get around and see different places. One thing that I do a lot in the game already is I will plan out my route knowing where portals take me. So this is going to make it so much easier to get to some places like Felwood, where it's, not always the easiest to get to if you're an Alliance player. As well as this, there's also a dock area which looks like it has 3 jetties. So perhaps we're going to see some different ships that we can board, which is absolutely fantastic. I love ships. I think it's a shame that they're not utilised more in the game. When we had the entire ship intro to Dragon Isles, I absolutely loved it because ultimately ships are cool. It gives that sense of adventure, it gives that sense of exploration, and that's something that I feel is sometimes missing, right? So with the possibility of ships leaving the new Night Elf area, I guess we can call it, that's got me quite excited. And as you'll have noticed, I mentioned that there was a portal to Felwood, so hopefully that'll make just it a bit easier to get around for players who want to go and see that part of the world. So yeah, that's a major result. Sounds really cool, and just having a look at the global channel within the test realm, there's a lot of people talking about the hope that this will be an evergreen feature, something that they continue to grow. Will they? Who knows? But it is pretty cool. So yeah, lots of portals. Speaking of portals, Stormwind Mage Tower has now been expanded. I don't know if this happened already, but I've only just noticed it in both the live game and in the PTR. And if you go through into the normal portal room, you'll notice that there's a staircase around about the central area. All you do is you slip up the side of that staircase, carry on, and again, there's room for, I believe it's around about 10 more portals. So worth having a look at. Really cool, and there's already a portal there to get to a Madrasil. Now, one of the interesting things here is if you look at all the other portal spaces, they have like boxes and things like that to indicate that this is just being used as storage. Probably not going to be something we see with a portal in it anytime soon. However, there is one which is pretty empty that looks like it might be getting ready for a portal to somewhere else. And where might that portal be going to, you may ask? Well, I think it might be Gilneas. So with that said, Gilneas, it is one of the big features that we're going to be looking at in this next patch. As you can see from the roadmap, it does say that we will be retaking Gilneas along with Greyman, which will be very cool. I'm so excited to see how this story plays out, because Gilneas has always felt like it was a lost opportunity, like there was so much more that could be done with it, and it's good to see that the dev team have identified this, listened to the community, and just seen that people really want to see this area expanded upon, reworked, just become part of the world of Warcraft. So, looking at the rework of Gilneas, you can see there's been the removal of a lot of the undead, forsaken assets in that area, which were from the opening of Cataclysm, and there is now just an empty palette for them to start working on and start building on. Now, one of the most interesting things is flying around the zone, there's been a few little bits been added. For instance, there's a number of NPCs dotted around the place. Now, you can't interact with them at the moment, but what you can do is get a bit of an idea of what they might be used for. For instance, there was one that I ran into which had a shop icon over her when you scrolled over the character model. And there's others which look like you could talk to them, but when you try to, they don't speak. And then in Stormwind Village, there has been a NPC added which looks to be the innkeeper for one of the inns in that area of the town. But that's not the only thing that's been added. So this area here that you can see on screen right now, this area used to be completely blank. There was nothing here. However, now there is a small dot. Now, I really love this idea of, you know, a lot more ships being used for travel. I enjoy traveling on the ships. I think, again, it just adds to that feeling that you're living in a world. And that's what I want Warcraft to feel like. It's really cool. So I hope to God that we get to see a lot more ships used in this way to navigate the world. So yeah, stay tuned for ships docking at Stormwind Village. Now, alongside some of these additions that we've already seen, there is also hints at what the story is going to be within the reclaiming of Gilneas. Now, for anyone who follows any of the other YouTubers such as Taliesin and Mr. GM, you'll be aware that the upcoming story for reclaiming Gilneas is going to include the Scarlet Brotherhood. I'm hoping that we see all sorts of cool stuff with them being brought back into the fold of the story, because there's a rich history there that really doesn't get utilised, and it's harkening back to this old era of WoW where, you know, it was about all of these different warring factions that all have the unique motivations and interests within the world. So yeah, they're going to be a big part of the story, and confirmation that they're going to be there not only lies within the achievement list that some of you may have seen, but also within these character models that I managed to find in the escape tunnel that you use in the intro to Cataclysm. They're just some bodies which are all dressed in Scarlet sort of Crusader, I guess, regalia, but it's really cool. So yeah, it's good to see these assets in there. So it looks like we'll be facing down the Scarlet Brotherhood within the retaking of Gilneas, which is super exciting. Now, speaking of Taliesin, did anyone see this?
I'm gonna make it official. I think it's player housing. I know, that is the dumbest thing you have ever heard. A box feature for a new expansion. Something that would be one of the biggest and most significant additions to the game ever, and they're not gonna mention it at BlizzCon and just drop it in a bullshit 0.7 patch or something. I've just got this feeling, maybe not the whole system, but like a little taster of what's to come. Maybe we will get a little apartment in Gilneas or a Madrasil.
Well, I did, and it got me rather excited. So excited, in fact, that after exploring the most recent build on the PTR, I found something which could be the biggest hint we've had at player housing since we had the garrisons in Warlords. Now, in the PTR at the moment, if you head to Greyman Mana, you will find that the once empty house of Lord Greyman has now become somewhat inhabited by 4 NPCs. Now, first off, 3 of these NPCs just seem to be rummaging around in boxes and crates and just basically looking like they're rummaging, or maybe they're unpacking something. And it just makes me wonder, what could they be up to? But not also is there people rummaging around in boxes in Greyman Mana. There's also this NPC that stood at the bottom of the stairs, and when you interact with them and chat, they end up saying this: there is a lot of work to be done before this mana is inhabitable again. The dust alone will take weeks to get out. The mana. Inhabitable? Did Blizzard just drop the biggest W of this expansion? Are we about to get the first sniffs of player housing through acquiring the keys to Greyman Mana? I mean, possibly. I could definitely just be like huffing the copium here, because I know it's something that everyone, myself included, has wanted for such a long time. But I honestly do think this is a big hint at player housing. And not just this alone, I mean, there's a few other things as well. If you fly around a Madrasil, you'll notice that there's these houses which are in the trunks of trees. Now, not all of these houses are in the capital city. I think there's 1 or 2 others dotted about as well. So they look like they could be something. And also, if you go to the merchant district in Gilneas, there's these sort of open doorways which kind of remind me a bit of instance entrances. And now I know these entrances have been in the game for a while in the merchant district, so I could be completely wrong there, but I hope I'm not. I really hope I'm not. But that isn't the end of it. So, upon chatting to the NPC in Greyman Mana, you'll notice that there's a dialogue option. And this dialogue option is to ask the NPCs to leave, which of course I clicked on to see what would happen. And when you do click on that, this is what happens. So the NPC will then say to you, the Greymans did say you may be by. We will be back tomorrow. Everyone, let's give the character player some space. Upon which they all head outside and then just vanish into nothingness, along with every other NPC in the zone. That may be a bug, I'm not sure why that happens, but it was just something I noticed. But why would they leave? Why? I don't get why you could ask them to leave. It just doesn't make any sense to me. What's the point? And I think it could be to, maybe have a big party with all of your friends, or maybe you just want to wander around in your underwear. Who knows? It could be a number of different things. Maybe it'll just be a sort of central command post where we do daily missions, and that's what's going to tide us over up until 10.2.7 and then 10.2.9 or whatever it may be. But has Gen Greyman just given us the keys to his house along with player housing? I hope so. I really do hope so, because that would be so cool. But as mentioned, this is the public test realm. All these things could change. Maybe it's just something that's being tested out. Sometimes content does get cut from these things. But yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see, and I'll try and keep you updated of the coming weeks of the PTR. Anyway, with all that said, I'd be interested to know what you think. Do you think this is a clear indication of player housing? Do you think that a Madrasil, along with the revitalisation of Gilnaus, could be a good opportunity to introduce this? Let me know in your comments below, and if there's anything that I've missed as well, feel free to fire them down there. I'd be interested to know what you've seen in the PTR, and let me know if you're just as giddy as me too, because that'd be cool to see. Anyway, I hope you're all good. I will see you soon, and until next time, take care.